All right, I'm super excited. We have Garrick King here, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself, but he is definitely chosen for this work that he's doing, and he is uncovering major things about the world that we live in and giving us some, I think, some evidence or proof. So we're going to just let him talk as much as possible and glean as much information as we can from him, and I might jump in maybe with a question or two. I don't know, but I want to mainly let you talk. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, mention your channel so people can go over there, give you a like, give you some support, and comment over there, subscribe. So go ahead, take it away.
Okay, well, my name is Garrick King, and my YouTube channel is the 1111 Matrix Code. Um, by day, I'm just a marketing assistant. I work a normal 9 to 5 job. Um, I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma with my husband and our 3 dogs. I work a normal 9 to 5 job. Basically, I'm just like everybody else. There's nothing elaborate or special about me. Um, I have had paranormal experiences throughout my entire life. Um, but outside of that, I wasn't ever really expecting anything like this to happen with this code that I seem to have uncovered. Um, just give a little bit of a backstory on how it started in 2009, in January. Don't remember the exact day, but I just started waking up at 3:33 a.m. in the morning. And first night it happened, I just woke up, looked at the clock, and that was the time. Rolled over, went right back to bed. The next night it happened again. Really, again, didn't think too much about it. Third night it happened. I started thinking, okay, this is odd. What's going on? Um, and then the fourth night, fifth night, sixth night, I mean, it just kept happening. And I know how ridiculous it sounds. People have called me a liar. They can call me whatever they want, can't help it, but it's the truth. It happened every single night from January until November. And I know it was November because I had a dream that my father came to visit me. He came out of the closet of my room. Um, and just like I was, in real, like, awake life, I was in bed in my dream. And I look up, see him standing there. I am kind of shocked. And I said, "What are you doing here?" Because I was just surprised. And before he could answer, I woke up. It was 7:15 in the morning. I had slept through the entire night, and never once woke up at 3:33 a.m. after that. So I still really don't have a clear explanation as to why that was happening, other than looking back at it now, I feel like whatever is in control of this code um, was doing whatever it needed to do to instill that number into my head so that I would never forget it. Now, fast forward to 2014, my husband and I got married, and my intentions were to legally change my name, to his last name. But no one told me that if I had signed our marriage certificate with his last name, it would have done it automatically. So I had to go through the court process of doing that. That actually took place in 2015. Within mere days after doing so, I my husband went to bed early one night. I stayed up doing some reading. Uh, Finally decided to go to bed about 10:30 or so. I was laying in bed reading, my Kindle. And then as I started to get a little tired, I put it on the nightstand, closed my eyes, and no joke, I mean, within seconds, I mean, I had no time to fall asleep whatsoever. So I closed my eyes, and within seconds, it's like someone had wheeled in a giant spotlight, like those kind that they put like in a car lot, then shoot up into the sky. It was like one of those, but it was like they wheeled it in and right in front of my face and turned it on because I was seeing this tremendous, massive, bright white light through my eyelids. And the weird thing is, I most people would have just opened their eyes to be like, what is that? Like, what's going on? Instead of doing that, I lay there trying to rationalize where the light was coming from, which makes no sense, but I did. And I thought, okay, someone's pulled in. Their headlights are shining through our bedroom window. But the thing is, we lived in a townhouse and our bedroom was on the second floor. And unless they were in a flying car, that would have been impossible. The second thought that ran through my head was that someone had broken in and they were shining a flashlight in my face. But then I started thinking, okay, well, the dogs aren't reacting. I didn't hear anything, no glass breaking or, nothing like that. Um, so, after going through this process of trying to rationalize this, I decide to finally open my eyes. When I do, it's it's weird if you can imagine. You're seeing this bright white light through your eyelids. You open your eyes and it's just gone. The room is pitch black. And I set up and I'm looking around the room and I'm just like, what was that? I just I looked at the doorway. I mean, I looked all around the room and it was just, the dogs were asleep. My husband was asleep. I still can't explain where the light came from. I happened to look over at the clock and it was 11:11. Again, that number didn't mean anything to me. I go to work the next day. I'm talking to a coworker. I tell the coworker about the white light, and they mentioned that to them it sounded like someone was trying to come visit me, and I think she was kind of trying to indicate that maybe it was my dad, which is possible. Um, and then I made a joke, that they needed to come during you know the day during normal business hours, not at night when I'm trying to sleep. Um, so we talked for a few more minutes. I go back to my cubicle. I'm sitting there working. A couple hours pass. I get a little hungry, thinking it's close to lunchtime. Look up at the right hand corner of my computer, and it's 11:11 a.m. And I had that brief thought. I was like, okay, this crap better not be starting again with the repeating numbers. And I could not have been more wrong because it started showing up all over the place. I would look at the clock, it'd be 11:11. I would be driving down the highway, I'd see the number on a car. I would go and purchase something at the convenience store, it'd be $11.11. I mean, it just started showing up all the time. And I remember one day I was on the highway, a truck drove by, had this big long number down the side of the trailer, and right in the middle of all these numbers was 1 1 1 1. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So, and it was showing up so much that I simply could not ignore it. It it was like it was trying to get my attention. It was like, look here, and like it was like just hammering it into my head to this point where it became this obsession to try to figure out what this number meant. So I go to the internet, I'm searching 11:11, and there's hordes of websites about 11:11, 333, 222. I mean, just all these repeating numbers. They all say pretty much the same thing, but some of them are slightly different on their interpretation of what the number means. And I was just kind of getting frustrated because I was like, how do you know exactly what the number means? How does anybody really know what the number actually means? So through my research, I start looking to see if there's connections in my own life with this number. And one of them that should have been obvious from the very beginning was my birthday. But I'm not a mathematician. I don't think, well, at the time, I didn't think in numbers. I didn't think to start putting numbers together and adding them up and totaling them and reducing them down and any of this stuff. But my birthday is September 2nd, and 9 and 2 is 11. And as I start doing this research, I realize or learn that September 2nd is the 245th day of the year, and 2 plus 4 plus 5 is 11. After I legally changed my name from Garrick Staggs to Garrick King, again, didn't realize it at the time, but only after this started that I realized that my name, Garrick King, is 11 letters. And my first name ends in K, last name, now begins with K, and K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. So encoded right in my name is 1111. Then the address, because at this time I was just trying to find any connection. I mean, any connection. So I looked at our address. I totaled up all of the numbers in our address. I can't remember what the exact total was, but when you can reduce those two numbers down, it was 11. Our second address, actually, I have it here on the screen. I can pull it up here. um, yeah, so our first address was 3260 South Lakewood Avenue, apartment 7A, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74135. So you take all of the numbers, add them up, they equal 38. And of course, 3 and 8 is 11. And
Okay.
then
Are you sharing right now?
I'm not, but let me go ahead and share.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure because I wasn't seeing it. Okay. No, go ahead. Do whatever you want to do.
Okay, yeah, I'm sharing right now.
Okay.
Okay, so then from that address, we moved to 8111 South 77th East Avenue, apartment 202, and Tulsa, Oklahoma 74133. Did the exact same thing, took all the numbers in the address, totaled them together, they equaled 47, which reduces to 11. So then I looked at our address prior to these and looked at the numbers. They didn't do it. And the address that we currently live at does not do it either. So what's interesting is these two addresses together are kind of a encoded 1111. Now, the current house that we live at, when we came to look at this house, we drove by just looking at the outside of it, drove down to the end of the street. I turned around, and as I was backing up, I looked, was looking in our or in the side mirrors. I see the house number of the house directly behind me as I'm backing up, and that house number is 1111. So it's things like that where it shows itself, it presents itself. So another interesting thing, my father was born April 7th, so 4 and 7 is 11. He died in the month of November. November's the 11th month. My grandfather, his father, also died in November, the 11th month. So again, there was just all these 11 connections. So in June of last year, there was one day I work at home. So, I was just working and different things were happening. So I looked at the clock, it was 11:11. I was working inside of a spreadsheet, and a customer that showed up on the spreadsheet, their address was 11:11. I uploaded the spreadsheet to send out, a marketing email, and didn't look at the total number of customers that we were sending the email to. But once it was uploaded, it showed me that there was 1,111 emails in that file, which came from, my boss sent it to me. And I was like, okay, what is going on here? Like, this is a lot of 1111s all in one day. Usually what would happen, I would see it, and then maybe a day would go by and then it would show up again. But this was happening consistently all in this one day. And it got me thinking, is there a connection between 1111 and 333? It was just a thought, because it was like these repeating numbers. And I always say this, I make it very clear, I did not hear a voice in my head. I'm not hearing voices speaking to me. But this random, and I call it a thought, this random thought pops into my head to take those two numbers and multiply them together. So I took 1111 times 333, and we get 369,963. Now, that number stood out to me for a couple of reasons. One, it's a palindrome, it's the same forwards and backwards. The second is that for those people out there who are familiar with Nikola Tesla, he's quoted as saying, if you only understood the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, you would hold a key to the universe. So I thought, okay, I get it. I understand it. But why? What's the point? So I get this another random thought coming into my head. And that thought was, now take 1111 and add it back to this number. So I did. And it actually produces the first number in this 1111 matrix code. So I have 371074. Again, I'm looking at this number. It meant nothing to me, nothing at all. And I was like, okay, and I'm kind of just having these thoughts in my head. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this number? And nothing. I have no thoughts. Nothing's popping into my head. A couple of days go by. And then finally, this, again, another random thought pops into my head to take this number, 371074, and now add 369963 to it and to every new number that you receive. So I did. I took that number, added 369963, and that produces the second number in the code, 741037. Now I want to pull those up side by side very quickly here and just show something interesting. So the first number, 371074. Second number, 741037. So if we look, we can see that the number 37 has swapped places. It's now jumped to the end of the second number. The first number ended in 74, and it has now jumped to the beginning of the second number, and a 10 remains the same in the middle. So I kept going because it said, and every new number that you get. So I added 369963, and lo and behold, the next number we get starts with 1111. So I don't know how far I was meant to go with this. And maybe I went a little haywire, but I took this code all the way up to, jump over here, and scroll down. I took it all the way up to 100 billion. It seems a little obsessive, but I just wanted to see how far this thing would go. And what I began to realize from this code is after looking at these numbers, I start adding them up. So just going linear, just going across. So 3 plus 7 plus 1 plus 7 plus 4 equaled 22. 22 reduced down to 4. And I began to realize that all of them were reducing down to the number 4. And somehow along the way, and again, this all feels like it was guided. I was guided to do this. I began to realize or pushed in this direction that 4 was the key to unlocking all of these numbers and bringing them back to 1111. And what I mean by that is we look at the last 4 digits of every number. So let's just start with the first one. We take 1074 and we add the remaining numbers, which is 37. And we have 1111. So the second number ends in 1037. We have 74 left over. We have 1111. So, and I think that's one of the reasons that I did take this formula so far up into the 100 billions, because I wanted to see how far this would actually go. And believe it or not, it will actually do the same thing all the way with this large number. So what we do is we take the last 4, 5285, and because the number is so large, we now take the next 4, which is going to be 4824. And then we're going to take the last 4, which is 1001. And as you can see, we have 1111. But then if we follow the formula even more, taking the last 4, which would be 1110, add the 1. So the 1's going to jump to the end here, and then we're perfectly back to 1111.
So this is amazing. This is your Virgo. So this shows you the Virgo organization here. I love it.
Oh, yes, because I have all of this just like plotted out in different tabs, and and again, it just became this obsession. Um, but I didn't
I love
understand
it.
why. I didn't understand why. Like, okay, so all these numbers do this, but why? What's the purpose of this? So, and this was, I mean, to me, it just feels like it was a guided push to keep working with this, and for whatever reason, like, I mean, it was a tremendous push because I was literally obsessed with looking at this thing every single night, and just trying to figure out what it meant, what patterns are existing here that might tell me an explanation as to why I'm seeing these numbers. Well, as I'm looking at these numbers, I begin to see patterns taking place. So the very first pattern was that the numbers are going up and down by the number 37. So as we talked about, 4 is the key to splitting the numbers. So if we look at the last 4, 1074, and then look at the last 4, the next number, 1037, they're actually going down by the number 37. So the third one is 1,000, and then we have 963. So take 1,000 minus 963, and you're left with 37. The numbers at the beginning are going up by 37. So we have 37, 74, 111, 148, 185, 222, and so on. So it's like this up and down sequence. Then I started noticing that there's a pattern going on with the very last digit of every single number. So what's interesting is we look at the first two numbers, 4 and 7, and then it goes to 0. Well, I was exactly 47 years old when all of this started unpacking. So we have 4 and 7, my age at the time, it goes to 0, and then we have this repeating pattern: 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8, 1, 4, 7, 0. Then it starts over: 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8, 1, 4, 7, 0. It repeats all the way over to 100 billion.
Hmm.
So if we go to this last tab, we can see here. So here's 4 and 7, excuse me, 0, 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, 8, 1, 4, 7, 0. Starts over: 3, 6, 9, 2, 5, and then that's where I stopped. So I'm like, okay, again, this is odd, and when all this was starting, I would call my brother almost every single day and be like, check this out, check this out, every time I'd find something new. And he would always say to me, okay, but what does it mean? I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. So again, start digging through this. And, like I said, I'm not a mathematician. In school, I absolutely hated math, wanted nothing to do with it at all. So it's just interesting that all this would come to me through math. And the more interesting thing is it's basic math. There's nothing going on here that's, extra special. It's not algebra. It's not, trigonometry. It's just simply taking these two numbers, multiplying, adding, et cetera, et cetera. So as I begin looking at the numbers, I'm just trying to find patterns. I wondered what would happen if I took the first number and added it to the second number. So doing so produced the number 1112111. Again, a palindrome. Then I took that number, added it to the third number. We get 2223111. And again, added it to the fourth number. We get 3704074. And automatically, because I was already doing this formula with the first numbers, I began to see a code taking, or not a code, but a pattern taking place. So if we start with 1111, we look at this first number, take the last 4, add the remaining, which is 111. You wind up with 2222. This number, take the last 4, add the remaining, which is 222. You wind up with 3333, and so on. We get 4444, and it's going in this sequence. straight down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, but they're in digits of 4. So I began to reduce those numbers down. So 1111 reduces to 4, 2222 reduces to 8, and so on. 3333 reduces to 12, which then further reduces to 3 because 1 and 2 is 3. And then when we get down here to 9999, we see that the pattern starts over again with 1111. So that ended up leaving these numbers left over: 4, 8, 3, 7, 2, 6, 1, 5, 9. Had absolutely, again, no idea what these numbers were, if they meant anything. So I copied them, pasted them into the internet. It immediately led me to something known as the Vedic square. And the Vedic square is really nothing more than a standard multiplication table where all of the double digits have been reduced to a single digit. Now, I want to say it's India. I hope that's correct, where they use the Vedic square they use the number patterns to create these patterns that they put on like not copper bowls, but like clay pots and stuff like that. When they're designing things, they actually use the Vedic square as part of the process of designing, these items. But as I'm looking at the Vedic square, I realize that number is actually the number that's going straight across the middle of the square. And it ends in this wall of nines, and there's a floor of nines. And then I realize that the number is also going back the other direction. It's also coming from the top and then going back up. And it's interesting that we only get those, or that list of numbers, and it forms this cross essentially in the middle of this Vedic square. Now, I don't know why I made it red, but I always refer to it as the red cross. But anyway, it was just interesting to me that we get this cross symbol. And when that symbol was produced, I began to almost mentally visualize these other symbols forming out of the numbers. So let's look at the first one. So the first one was actually like, it comes from the numbers 333, 1111, and then what the total is of those two numbers when they're multiplied. So to me, 333 represented a short line, 1111 was a slightly longer line, and then 369 represented this step up process, a plateau, and then a step back down. And as I drew it out, I looked at it and I was like, that looks like the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. So I go to Wikipedia and I pull it up, and you can see the picture that's on the screen. Excuse me. I have terrible allergies. So as I'm looking at the specs of the pyramid, I begin to see these numbers kind of popping out. So the length of the pyramid is 720 feet, and 7 plus 2 is 9. And then the width is 740 feet, and 7 and 4 is 11. So 11 really stood out to me, but so did 9, because we were kind of now starting to see that floor of nines and that wall of nines. Then the second symbol that was generated was actually from the first two numbers. So 371074, 741037. After looking at it, I realized if you took the 10 and added it to each side, you could actually see the numbers running downwards and back up. And that formed this symbol, which matches up perfectly with the Aztec sunstone, also in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, again, what's going on here? So we seem to have these two symbols that are representing the sun. The third symbol came from a simple hand gesture. So every time I was showing this information to somebody and explaining the formula for bringing the numbers back to 1111, I would draw on the screen a line under the number and swoop it over. And I was doing it so much that I began to see that symbol in my head. And so I drew it out and I was like, okay, that kind of looks like the setting sun. Or, maybe it could be a symbol for the setting sun.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was looking at the sequence of numbers, the very last digits of every single number that was generated 369, 258, 147. Well, I thought, okay, well, that's interesting because that's the exact pattern of how the numbers show up on a calculator. So 369, 258, 147. And to me, and they're going from the bottom up. So it seemed to indicate these three arrows pointing up. But
Mm-hmm.
pointing up at what? Possibly the sun. So, and then of course, the last symbol was the one from the Vedic square. And this same cross inside of a circle is also a ancient symbol, or one ancient symbol for the sun. So we wind up having 5 distinct symbols for the sun. But again, why? What was the point? So jumping back here, with the whole Vedic square thing and the wall of nines and the floor of nines, that led me to looking up the power of 9. So when you take, and I'm sure people have seen this before, but when you take 9 or 1 through 9 and you put it into a triangle or a pyramid shape such as this, we can see that 9 is the ruling number at the top. But if you take 8 and 1, you get 9. 7 and 2 is 9. And 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 is 18, which further reduces to 9. It shows us that 9 is the ruling number. And then, of course, there's other things that you can do. So you can take all of the numbers but 9 and total them, and you'll still get the number to reduce to 9. And then you can take all of the numbers out of it or take all the numbers out, like 369. You can remove those numbers and add the remaining numbers and still get a number that reduces to 9. So it all comes back to 9.
You know what's interesting with this layout here? That's how the Enneagram is laid out, with the numbers just like that, with the 9, 8, 1, 7, 2. That's immediately what I saw when you put that up there. As well as some of the other symbols you're doing, like that snowflake looking thing is sextile in astrology, like a 60-degree angle.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing so much more than what you're showing here. So I think we're seeing this stuff everywhere.
Oh, of course. Of course. Well, and I want to point out too, it's like I said, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a numerologist. I was just basically thrown into the middle of this,
You are now.
Yeah, I am now. Um, but what this ended up doing was it led me to something known as vortex math. And vortex math is essentially where you start with the number 1 and double it. So 1 doubles and becomes 2, 2 doubles and becomes 4, 4 doubles becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, and then 32 and 64 and so on. But when you start getting to these double digits, such as 16, 32, and 64, you begin to reduce them down. So 16 reduces to 7, 32 reduces to 5, and 64, so 6 and 4 becomes 10, and 10 further reduces down to 1. So there's a pattern, again, another repeating pattern. And that's one of the things that was standing out to me at the very beginning of this was all of these repeating patterns. What's with these repeating patterns? So the repeating pattern is 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. And then it repeats 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. So if you continue that whole process, that sequence will continue. But the
So
interesting thing, oh, sorry, go
does
ahead.
these numbers keep going? Because it's like I'm seeing now multiples of 8 or things divisible by 8, like the 32, the 64,
Yeah, so
and
54
the
would
2, 4
become,
is add up to the 8. So the sideways 8 here, it's like it's just interesting to me because in Chaldean numerology, the alphabet only goes to 8. They don't use 9. I don't know if this is all
right.
connected, but this is fascinating to me. I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but
No, you're fine.
it's
Yeah,
just
I think it does.
fascinating.
continue because so we get to 124875, 124875. So even after 64, the next number would be
128,
128. So 8 and 2 is 10, and then 1 is
11.
11, so it would become 2. So that would be the 2 that we would see showing up.
Mhm.
So, but one of the interesting things is that it's that repeating number 124875. And
Mhm.
when you actually draw a line from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 7, 7 to 5, and then back to 1, you actually wind up with the infinity symbol being shown to us in that sequence.
Yeah, that's just brilliant. And
Yeah,
an Enneagram actually separates 3, 6, 9 by themselves, and these other numbers are connected.
correct.
So it's just everywhere. Yeah, this is brilliant.
Yeah. And these numbers will they start showing up, especially 333, 1111, 369, 37. There's all these connections. And I've been accused of cherry picking numbers. I've been accused of um, manipulating the numbers. I don't know how that's even possible. I can't manipulate 2 plus 5 to become 32, you know. Um,
Right.
so it's crazy the accusations that people put out. I've even been accused of being a government psyop. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Um, so going through this, I was eventually led to Gematria, which I'd never heard of. But as I began to look it up and as I began plugging in these numbers, these messages started coming through that tie in and started making these bizarre connections. And at first, they just seemed like coincidences. Now, I don't believe in coincidence at all, especially when you start to see how this unfolds. I've said it millions of times that at this point, this is all too coincidental to be a coincidence. And one of the statements that comes up through the numbers was a message that basically said that coincidence is God's ability to remain anonymous, which I thought was an interesting statement to come through.
Hmm.
Now, I also want to point out that I'm not a religious person. Yeah, as a kid, my mom would send us to Sunday school and summer Bible camp and stuff like that. But we weren't, you know, typical churchgoers, and I've always kind of had this difficult time with religion because there's so many contradictions to it, and you name it. So, but anyway, jumping back to the gematria, I began looking at the very first number that showed up to me. So the 333. So this is using the Jewish cipher of gematria. And these phrases like really stood out to me. So the very first one, the tool. And that to me seemed to be what this was and what gematria is a tool. We get magic secret. And there seems to be these magic secrets that are being exposed through this. Speaking in code. That phrase right there alone was telling me this is exactly what's taking place here. This is being spoken through a code. Hidden intelligence. Again, that's what's taking place here. A code to find God came up. And I just want to keep in mind that every single one of these phrases that you're looking at here on the screen has the value of 333. So angelic host, looped time showed up, which that one really stood out to me because of the infinity symbol.
Hmm.
And then we get the message earth ends, message of end, beast sigil, and uncloaked. And I thought, okay, these are very odd. So I go over to 1111. I plug those in, get quite a bit that all seem to connect. So the quantum number, the architect of the matrix. And that was the very first time that I saw the word matrix show up in all of this. Great ability to cipher code, which is exactly what this is. Again, hidden knowledge, most possessed number, just a dream, be aware of God, twin flame, who is Bob. I won't read through all of these, but we also get one that I have right here in red. The beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. That stood out to me for a very particular reason, which I'll show you here in just a moment. This one here, Gematria is anagram equals great I am. I thought that one was interesting. And represent the chosen mathematician. That one will be interesting here in just a moment. So the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. The reason that one stood out to me is because it's clearly told to us in the very first two numbers that were generated. So as I talked about, 37 has jumped to the end of the second number and 74 has jumped to the beginning of the second number. So literally we're being shown that the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. The infinity symbol is another representation of that. It just loops continually over and over and over. There's no beginning and no end to the symbol itself. Now, this is bizarre, but at the time that this started happening back in June, I received a random email to my work email address from someone named Bob. Okay. No last name, just Bob. The subject line and the body of the email both said a note from the universe. Now, that stood out to me because everything that I had read about 1111 had said that it was the universe trying to connect with you, trying to send you a message. And then I get this random email, a note from the universe. So I began looking at the numbers. I even plugged in that whole message, a note from the universe, into Gematria, and it gave the value of 1604, which reduces to 11. 1604 plus its mirror opposite, 4061, becomes again another palindrome, 5665, which is an encoded 1111. 5 and 6 is 11, 6 and 5 is 11. I took the numbers from the date in like the month, day, year, and the time that the email was sent to me, plugged them in, totaled them up. They totaled 27. 2 and 7 is 9. Not to mention that Bob in Jewish Gematria, I think the total number of Bob is 54, and 5 and 4 is 9. So when this email came, I didn't respond straight away because even though I found it really weird, and I was the only one in the company that received this email, and again, it came to my work email, not my personal email. And the reason I think that happened was, again, whatever's controlling this wanted to ensure that I would see the email. If it had come to my personal email account, I may have overlooked it, thinking it was junk and just deleted it. But because I read every single one of my work emails, I was sure to click on this and open it up and see what it said. So, but I didn't want to reply because just on the off chance that it was some kind of phishing email, some kind of spam email, I didn't want to do something that would generate a virus attack within the company or, a virus attack against my computer. I waited a very long time. And it was only after being prodded by my coworker who I've been sharing this information with. One day we were sitting here and she was just like, you need to reply to that email. And I was like, but what if it, what if it does something? And she goes, just don't worry about it. Just do it. And she became this cheerleader. Like literally she was chanting, do it, do it, do it. I said, okay, stop. So I just wrote out, what is the message, and hit reply. To this day, I have not received a response back. However, after doing so, and she can attest to this. Like this was not planned. We were just talking on this particular day, and I sent the email. But after doing so, I looked at the time, the like again, the month, day, year, and the time that it was sent. What are the chances that it would also reduce to 27 and further reduce to 9?
Hmm.
Again, an odd coincidence. But what is most bizarre is this person's name is Bob. And 1111, the phrase, who is Bob, has the same value. To
I
me,
hate to
that
tell you
was,
this. Bob in Chaldean is 11.
oh, is it?
And I about fell off my chair when I was watching a replay of you and you were talking about Bob, and then a commercial interrupted, on YouTube. And they kind of gear those commercials to where you are. And it said the name of my hometown, and it had a truck, and it said Bob's Furniture is coming to a town near you, or coming to your town. Right when you were talking about
Oh,
Bob, I don't know if they stuck that in there because you were saying the word Bob, like they stuck that commercial in there, but it's just wild. But Bob is 11.
that is interesting. That's interesting. See, it's little things like that that happen that you're just like, okay, what's going on here? Why? Excuse me. So again, when all this was going on and just looking at the numbers, trying to figure out again what they mean exactly, what is again the purpose of all of this. I was looking at the numbers 369, and I can't even recall what possessed me to do it. But I typed or added our current year to that number, which at the time was 2021 when all this started unpacking. So the first thing that happens when you do that is you get the first number 37. And then I saw the numbers 1984. Well, that stood out to me because of George Orwell's 1984, but also because 1984 was 11 years after I was born. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting, but again, it was nothing super special. But when I added the or did the formula of taking the last four, so 1984, and added 37, it gave me 2021. And I was like, okay, that's wild. It was almost like it was showing me that the numbers 369963 work as an input output processor, which is most interesting because the 11th number in this 1111 matrix code, when I copied it and plugged it into the internet, it took me to a Google Patents page. And that number, the 11th number of this 1111 matrix code, is actually a Google patent number for a input output processor.
Oh my gosh.
So I just, again, seeing that took place, I wondered, well, what do I need to put in to have that number come back to our current year? So, or when I say come back to our current year, what I meant was, so taking 369963, you would add the year 2058 to get it to show 2021 at the end.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I kept going through all of these thought processes. Like, again, what does this information mean? Why is it just now coming to me? Because again, 333 was back in 2009. 1111 started showing up in 2015. But why now? Why 2021? What's so important about this particular time that all of this starts coming out this way? So again, taking 2021 and adding that 37 at the beginning, it brings us back to 2058. Now, one thing I want to point out is any four-digit number that you add to 369963 can be brought back to the original number simply by doing that sequence of taking the last four digits and adding the remaining. The other interesting thing is every number, it doesn't matter what it is, anytime you add a four-digit number to 369963, it will always start with 37. Always. So even 369963 plus, I'm just going to make up a number here. Let's say 8319 starts with 37.
Mm.
So adding 37 to 8282. Whoops. So clear out 8282 plus 37 gives us 8319, the number we started out with.
Mm.
So again, going back on that thought process of why now? Why this year? What's going on with 2021? Why the number 2058? I go to the internet and I plug in 2058. And it's, again, I've said this a million times, it's hard to research a year that hasn't even happened yet. But simply by typing in 2058, I came across an article which was written in the year 2000, and the article is called Apocalypse 2058. And it really drew my attention because some of the phrases that we saw earlier, such as Earth End, or where was that? Yeah, Earth End, Message of End. And then now we're seeing this Apocalypse 2058. So I read through the article. It's about a geophysicist named Didier Sornay. And he basically is predicting that in the year 2058, there's going to be some sort of singularity taking place. He's determined this by looking at the Dow Jones index, and he sees that there's going to be some sort of spike, and he calls it a spontaneous singularity. And it says this is a point where the graphs can't get any steeper. And it says singularities foreshadow a critical point of fundamental and abrupt disruption to the status quo. Black holes in space are one example. Others include stock market crashes, earthquakes, and catastrophic ruptures in engineering structures. So I was like, okay, like what's going on here? So pushing this even further, I go to the internet and I do Gematria on the number 2058. We get many deadly diseases of the apocalypse, a breakaway society, and that is actually mentioned in that article because it talked about if some sort of event like this took place, that some of the society may have to leave the planet, go elsewhere. And then we get this phrase, Earth can't sustain 7 billion people. And revelations become evident. So after seeing that phrase, Earth can't sustain 7 billion people, I typed into Google, how many billion people live on the Earth? I wasn't quite sure. It comes back with 7.8 billion people. And it says with the world population at 7.8 billion people as of March 2020, and typical projections of population growth, Earth will be in a state of human overpopulation by 2050 or sooner, which is only 8 years difference. Now, I've had, again, tons of people say they don't buy that. They think the Earth can sustain more, et cetera, et cetera. And I always come back to them with the response of, well, it doesn't matter if I believe it or if you believe it, but if our elite government believes it and they're trying to keep the population under a certain amount of control, then again, my beliefs and your beliefs don't matter. So again, that was a very bizarre, interesting tie-in. So one of the things that come up through this code as well is I began looking at the numbers and wanted to start seeing if there was any connections here in just the numbers themselves. Well, the numbers are too big to pull out any sort of phrases in like gematrix.org or anything like that. So, but because of the formula of taking the last four and adding the remaining, I made a split in the numbers. So I put all of the last four digits over here, and then over here are the remaining digits, separated them out, and then began looking at gematria connections from those numbers. So 371074, that's the first number. So 1074 is the last four digits. We start getting these interesting phrases, such as behold Jesus, 4x4, which that doesn't seem like there's a connection there, but there is, and I'll show you in just a moment. Simulated reality. That came out. So that was the second time that a Matrix C sort of message or simulated reality message came through. The name that equals Christ. Look up. It is God the Most High. That one stood out because of the three arrows symbol pointing up. A son declared by the math of God. Signs the Matrix is real and reality is a hoax.
That pretty much spells it out.
Yep. And then in the second number that was generated, so 741037, we start getting phrases such as the Merovingian king, the priory of Sion, and then the most interesting one, Nikola Tesla 369. Man awakened, the triangular pattern, which is exactly what we saw right here with the power of 9, a triangular pattern. Man awakened, I guess, could be looked at as me. I was awakening, but also we're all awakening. And then simply awake dream. Then I get down to the third number. So it started with 111, and then 1,000 was the last four. We get the messages times running out, the one true God, the great I am. So again, it's pointing back to that, gematria being the great I am. The apocalypse is here. Again, jumping back to that article, Apocalypse 2058, a matrix reprogramming. This has already happened. A computer made for gematria code, conscious shift of the mind, and God's return to earth. But 111 actually produces the first name of Didier Sornay, the geophysicist. So his first name has the value of 111. And the words encoded also have the value of 111. Now, down through these numbers, so we start seeing in red, you can see we're out of matrix, labyrinth of dreams, matrix elements, crash the matrix, matrix test, all our memories are fake, decode the matrix. I mean, the matrix, it just keeps showing up over and over and over and over and over. But here's where it gets really bizarre. There's a phrase here, decode the binary code. As I was looking through the 1111 matrix code numbers, there are numbers here that look like binary code, such as the very first one. It's all ones and zeros. This one down here is all ones and zeros. There's others throughout here that show up as just ones and zeros. I took all of those numbers out that were just ones and zeros. As you can see them over here, actually. I took it to a binary code to text converter, and I got this weird, let's see here if I can find it. In here somewhere. That's weird. Oh, here it is. So I punched it in and it returned this result, XPK / : then WHCM QG and the at symbol. I was like, what, what in the world is this? But as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, this looks like a directory, like a computer directory of some sort.
Mm.
So like C drive and the backslash, and then this is the folder name. So I copied that to the internet. Nothing came up. I got rid of the directory part and just typed in this portion, the WHCMQG at symbol. Plugged it in. No joke. The very first thing that comes up is this website for the Security Exchange Commission in Switzerland. Don't know why.
I have to insert here that Swiss cross, the red cross,
Yes.
which is the capital of the elite, Switzerland. And
Yep.
it's one of their big symbols, and they use it everywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But as I'm looking
Craziness.
at, yes, as I'm looking at this file online, there's a couple of things that stood out. So the security file number starts 333. Their business phone number. So here's the country code. I think that's the country code at the beginning. Then I'm not sure what the 44 is, but the last portion of the phone number is 333-1111. What are the chances of that? And
Yeah.
guess who used to be a member of this Credit Suisse bank? Didier Sornay, the
Oh, Lord.
geophysicist from that article, Apocalypse 2058.
That's just unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. Now, here's something else that's bizarre. So I'm sitting here one day, not working on this at all. I'm doing my actual job. I get one of those thoughts that pop into my head, and it said, check your numbers. And it was a very strong thought. Check your numbers, check your numbers. So I was like, oh, Christ, did I screw up? So I go back, I start looking at the numbers. Lo and behold, I made an error. So when I was doing the calculations on these numbers, and this is before, and again, like I said, I'm not a mathematician. I hadn't actually really used these programs before. I didn't know that I could have the program do the math for me. I do now, obviously, but I was doing it all by hand. And as I was typing out one of the numbers, and I think it's this number down here, I inserted an 8 instead of a 9, or a 9 instead of an 8, or whatever. And what it ended up doing was causing all of the numbers below it to, it didn't screw it up. That's the interesting thing about it. It caused every number to come back to 5 ones instead of 1111,
Hmm.
which ended up leading me to a new message. The 5 ones, this entire phrase that I'm going to read here has the value of 11111. And that phrase is, we are in an artificial matrix. We are slaves. We are being punished. We are being further tested and tried like silver, 7 times in the fire. The few and refined shall rise. And I was like, what is going on here? But I actually found this before I discovered the error that I had made. So once I discovered that I'd made an error, I corrected it. And then that's what caused all of the numbers all the way up to 100 billion to now come back to just 1111.
Huh.
So it's almost as though the error that I made was meant to happen,
Mm-hmm.
because after the error was corrected, those numbers that look like binary code no longer formed or created that directory link, because the numbers were now different. But as I was researching Didier Sornay and Credit Suisse Bank, I took their address, plugged it into Google Earth. The very first street image that I clicked on was this one here. And of course, what do I see but this white cross? The very same one that I saw from the Vedic square. And then I'm looking at the bus or train or whatever this is here, and the number on it is 2111. And I'm like, again, what is going on here with this? So it was all of these connections that just start coming out. And I'm like, this cannot be coincidence anymore at this point. So earlier when I said 4x4, I took the number 37 or 371074 and I created a Vedic square. So what I did was I started with 37 and then put every number all the way over to 74 going across, with 55 being in the middle. 55 is the representation of that number 10 that shows up in the first number, 371074. So I had all the numbers going across, then I wrote them going down, I wrote them going backwards along the bottom, and then going back up from the bottom to the top. This is what's interesting. All of those numbers, when you add 37 to 74, you get 111. 38 to 73, 111. Every single number is 111. But it actually also ends up forming a 4x4 Vedic square, as we can see here. So that's where the connection 4x4 showed up. But not only that, 111 is the value given to Didier Sornay, his first name. And then looking at his entire name, Didier Sornay, his whole entire name has the value of 581, and so does Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I live. And I'm like, again, these odd connections taking place like this. So again, I'm starting to research all of this, and then I come across this, which we are currently in a 19-year cycle of having summer solstice solar eclipses. We had one in 1982, we had one in 2001, we had one in 2020, we'll have one in 2039, and then we'll have another one in 2058. Key year right there. And we won't have another one after that for nearly 200 years. So that really stood out to me. 2058 again. As I start looking at the numbers, so we're in 19-year cycles. From 1982 to 2001 is the first 19-year cycle. 2001 to 2020 is the second. 2020 to 2039 is the third, and 2039 to 2058 is the fourth. When you take 19, reduce it down, 9 and 1 becomes 10. 10 further reduces to 1, and we literally have an encoded 1111. Then
19 is also, 19 is also the sun card and related to the sun in Celtic numerology.
Is it? I did not
Yeah.
know that. Okay, so there you go. Another reference back to the sun. Wow. Okay. So I took the numbers from the complete dates and started reducing them down. So the first one reduces to 29. I put 11 here because 2 and 9 is 11, which further reduces to 2. And then this one reduces to 12, 13, 23, and 24. It produces this pattern of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, just in sequential order. But when you take the year only, so just 1982, 2001, it does the same thing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I go to Gematrix.org, plug in the number 23456, and it produces this one single phrase over and over. And just to show people this, so here's Gematrix.org. You type in 23456, calculate. Here's the phrase. It's numbers spelled out. But I'm looking at it, and I don't know what possessed me to do it. But I began to look at the numbers and broke them down. and compared them to our alphabet. So 13, 21, 12, 20, 9. When you start comparing each number to its corresponding letter in the alphabet, it produces the message multiple infinite waves of love.
Hmm.
And then I took those numbers, lined them up, totaled them up, and the total is 339. And in Gematria, it gives us end of times. So again, these references back to the end. Now, jumping back to 369963 real quick, those numbers, again, 369963 is too big, but if we break it down into 369 and its mirror opposite, so 369 gives us humans, the math of God, the base code of life, earth end near, children of light, desolation, the end of the Bible, and change the paradigm.
Wow.
963 gives us the event, end of days prophet. Only the chosen can see, created by prophet, the truth codex, Almighty God's code reader, let us make man in our image, and the blazing star. Again, very interesting phrases coming up. Going to kind of jump ahead here just a little bit. As I am going through and I start decoding this, I wanted to look at it and see if there's connections to the Bible, because we're talking about the end times, the end of the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. So I pull up Genesis 1, the very first sentence in the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, in the Jewish cipher, it produces the value of 1894. So 1 plus 8 plus 9 plus 4 is 22. And look at the phrases that we get from just the number 1894. Number 37. So that phrase, number 37, has the value of 1894. Well, as we've already seen, 37 is the beginning of every number when you add a 4-digit number to 369963, but also every number in the 1111 matrix code is going up and down by 37.
Mm-hmm.
We also see the mathematical universe of creation. And then not to mention that 22 can be achieved by taking 11 plus 11. The very first number, 371074, when it's reduced, the first reduced number is 22, which further reduces to 4. Something to point out is 37 is the 12th prime number and 73 is the 21st prime number. So 12 plus 21 gives us 33, which is supposed to be the age of Jesus at the time of his crucifixion. It's also the highest order of the Masonic order.
Mm-hmm.
When you take 37 or 371074 and you add them together like this, so 37 plus 10 plus 74 gives us 121, which is also the equivalent of 11 times 11. So it's all of these hidden numbers, these hidden ways of this being encoded or decoded is what I'm doing, is, decoding it. But you can see how this is intricately encoded into the Bible. You're going to see it even more here in just a moment. But it's prevalent throughout every single one of us and our entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
So the name Jesus has the value of 985. 9 plus 8 plus 5 is 22. Again, tie in back to 1111. Christ has the value of 290. 2 and 9 is 11. The combined total is of Jesus Christ has a value of 1275. And again, this is using the Jewish cipher. And 1275 produces the phrase, I am summer solstice solar eclipse.
Mm.
And we just saw how we're going through 19-year cycles of summer solstice solar eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
We also get the phrase, his true coded scriptures. And then when you take 12 and 21, so you have the 12th prime and the 21st prime. So you create a number of 1221 plus its mirror opposite, which again would be 1221. You get the number 2442, which gives us the message true intelligence comes from logic and how it's applied. Now, I still don't speak Hebrew and I still don't read Hebrew. So I have to do a lot of research when I'm doing the breakdown of Hebrew. But here's something interesting. In the Hebrew Bible, this phrase, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, has the value of 2701. Well, 2701 is achievable by taking 37 times its mirror opposite, 73. We have 2701.
Mm.
Now, another unique factor of this is if you take 2701 plus its mirror opposite, 1072, you have the numbers 3773.
Mm.
Now, this portion we actually, I talked about on Rex's show, and we're going to look at how this is deeply tied into the Bible, and how I believe that what this code is telling us is that we are about to have another reset. Now, we've had a reset. We've had multiple resets, I believe, throughout the course of history, but there's one talked about in the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis, and that's the flood. But when you look at the breakdown code, let me go back up here real quick to the Gematria connections. Let's see. It talks about there's other messages that came through, such as the calm before the storm. There's a
Mm.
storm coming. Um, let's see. Detoxing the planet is a phrase that came up. In the beginning, God created the beginning. That came up. Predict future, hidden truths become clear, execute the plan. So there's
Mm.
all these weird connections. But let's look at this real quick. So this is the very first phrase in the Bible in Hebrew. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, I've had some people tell me that this middle word here in red means the, but I've had others tell me that it doesn't actually translate to anything. It's used as a bridge word, bridging this portion to this portion.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of have to take it with a grain of salt because again, I don't speak Hebrew, but I'm learning as I go along. So just looking at this very first sentence here, and again, has the value of 2701, which is achievable by taking 37 times 73. So if we look here, we have a 2-letter word, and 2 is a prime number. And now that we're talking about the number 2, let's look at the second word and the second to the last word. They have 3 letters. 3 is a prime number. And now that we're talking about the third, or the number 3, let's look at the third word and the third to the last word. They have 5 letters. 5 is a prime number. The entire sentence has 7 words, and 7 is a prime number. So when you look at this word here, we have the number 3. Then if we take the heavens and the bridge word and add them together, so we have 5 and 2 is 7. And if we go the other direction, we have the number 3 and a 5-letter word, and the bridge word gives us 7. So encoded in that first sentence is 3773. And then looking at the third word, let's see, three, four, five, the fifth word and the last word. So we have the values. These small numbers down here are the value of each letter in Hebrew, and the larger number is the total of the entire word. So if we take 86 plus 395 plus 296, we get 777. 777 is also achievable by taking 37 times 7 times 3. Again, an encoded 3773. And then if we take the word God plus the heavens plus this word here, which is and, so 86 plus 395 plus 407 is 888. And that's achievable by taking 37 times 7 times 3 plus 111. So again, 3773. And now the addition of the number 111, which leads back to Diddy or Sornay. And then lastly, we take the words created, the bridge word, and the heavens, we get 999, which is achievable by taking 37 times 3 times 3 times 3. So already we're seeing connections to 37 and 333. But encoded in this is the number 369. We have 3 sevens here. 7 times 3 is 21. 2 and 1 reduces to 3. 8 times 3 is 24. 2 and 4 becomes 6. And then 9 times 3 is 27. And 2 and 7 is 9. So we have an encoded 369. Now, I was looking at this and I started breaking this first word down. I began to see that there was, again, these patterns taking place. The first 3 letters of the very first word are the exact same 3 letters of the second word. Now, the second word is created. The translation of this word actually has 2 meanings. So we have created, and then we also have what was it? To cut down. That's what it was, to cut down. So beginning to break down this very first word, we have created, because it's right here. It's the first 3 letters. The last 3, when translated, means set in place or make stationary. And then, of course, this word having that additional translation of cut down. So already we're being told in the very first word of the Bible that God created the heavens and the earth. He set them in place, and his intentions are to cut them down. How will he do that? Well, if you take again this first word and you remove the middle 2 letters, it actually forms a new word, and that new word is covenant. And then the letters that you have removed, the 2 in the middle, form a word, and that word is fire. So again, looking at this, God created the heavens and the earth. He set them in place. He means to cut them down using a covenant of fire. And that covenant of fire will actually be the head of his household. Because if you take the first word here, remove the first letter, we're left with a word that simply means head or first fruit. Now, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 20, Jesus is referred to as the first fruit. He would also be the head of God's household. And again, we see the word house being formed out of this word because it's the last 2 and the beginning. So if you remove these 3 letters, you get the word house. And then simply the first 2 letters in this word produces son, S-O-N. So God created the heavens and the earth. He set them in place. He means to cut them down using a covenant of fire, which will be the head of his household, his son. Now, I've been working closely with Micah Dank, and he teaches astrotheology and teaches how the Son of God, the Son that's spoken of in the Bible, is actually being referred to as the sun in the sky. I actually was able to, let's go down here, to demonstrate that even further, which I think surprised and shocked him at the same time. So if we take that same triangle that we saw earlier, 9 at the top, 6 in the corner, 3 in the corner, and all the other numbers set aside. If we draw a line from 2 to 5 to 8, we get this symbol or pattern taking place. 1 to 4, 4 to 7, back to 1, we get the Star of David. It's also known as the Star of Creation. As I was doing this, I began to wonder what would happen if we took a line and went from this point to this point, this point to this point, this point to this point, and so on. We wind up with something like this. Upon seeing this, the very first thing that stood out to me was a three-dimensional shape. Most people don't see it, but it stood out to me straight away. So if we go from this point to here and back, we have the top of a cube. And then from here down over to here and back up, we have the front of a cube. And then we have the side of the cube over here. If we come up here, we can see where we have the front and the side, but we're missing the two back portions and the top. So I created cube shapes and began setting them in place. And as you do this, you're going to see what forms. You can probably already see it. We have the cross. Then I began to wonder, well, what would happen if we extended those lines out? So again, we have the cross. If we extend those lines out, then we can actually achieve 12 individual locations for each one of the signs of the zodiac.
Mm.
And because of the star in the middle, which is a reference to Jesus, the sun, it's showing us the sun moving through all 12 zodiac signs. Again, a connection, a tie back into the Son of God being the sun in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this event in 2058 that I talk about, I believe is going to be a solar flare event.
That was my next question. I didn't watch this far on Rex because we did this so quick. I didn't get. So this is all new what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, and I didn't
That was
actually
my
get to this
question.
portion on Rex.
Something interesting with this chart you've got here, the astrology chart. This is the Western style astrology, which follows the 12 signs, but it follows the sun's path. It doesn't follow the constellations, which is really interesting to me. And I think it
Yeah,
reads the code, Western astrology. But go ahead. That's mind blowing to me right there.
yeah. Well, and you know the I
Because
love
everybody tells me, oh, Western astrology, doesn't have any value. You should be doing sidereal. And it's like, it's got value.
yeah, there's tie-ins. There's tie-ins,
Yep.
absolutely. And I always love saying this to people because you just said the words mind-blowing. And I just every time someone says that, I love telling them that the words mind-blowing actually has the value of 1111.
Oh man, I'm programmed.
So yeah, so that was one of the tie-ins just with Micah Dank's work, and he was really blown away by this. And it just again it ties back into to this. And one other interesting thing is, so let's look here. So what's the first thing in the Bible that God created that he said was good? It was the light. Okay. So the word good in Hebrew has the value of 17.
Mm.
And 17 is the total of 2 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7. Those numbers that are encoded in the very first sentence of the Bible, the prime numbers. And as we can see, 17 is also a prime number. So, a little interesting thing here, if we take 17 times 17, we get 289. And the light, the one thing that God said, the first thing that God said that was good, has the value of 252 in Hebrew. So 289 minus 252 is 37. Now, people have probably wondered, well, how does 1111 tie into this? Well, what this is showing us essentially is the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. It keeps coming back to that even though this is talking about God created the heavens and the earth, he set them in place, he means to cut them down. It doesn't mean an end. It is an end, but the end is the beginning. It's the start of something else. It's a reset. So literally, things go on forever. Now, the Hebrew word for forever is actually made up of two words. The first word has the value of 74, and the second word has the value of 146. And the reason I say the second word, for people that don't know, Hebrew is read from right to left, not left to right like English. So you would read it this direction. But looking at numbers 146 and 74, they are achievable by taking 2 times 73, the mirror opposite of 37. So 2 times 73 is 146. 74 is achievable by taking 37 times 2. We seem to have a new encoded pattern, 73, 37. And 73, 37 plus 37, 73 from the first portion of the Bible gives us 11, 11. And again, simply using the formula of taking the last four and adding the remaining, we would have it right back to exactly 11, 11. Now, a couple of interesting things too is 3 times 7 times 7 times 3 gives us 441, which is the mirror opposite of 144, which is Lord Jesus Christ in Hebrew. Again, it keeps coming back to Christ. Now, encoded in Genesis 1:2, the very last chapter and verse of Genesis, it talks about, let me pull this up here. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 50, verse 26. And it says, so Joseph died being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Now, the numbers 37, 73 are encoded right here. It just simply takes the math to bring it out. So 37 plus 73 is 110. 110 years old. And keep in mind, this is the end of Genesis. This is the last chapter, last verse. We have it encoded
Wow.
3773. It again is showing us the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning in just the numbers alone. And then tying this even more. Oops. This is where it starts to get pretty deep. And you haven't seen this portion yet either. So again, the very first word of the Hebrew Bible is this word here. I think it's pronounced like Bereshith. Has the value of 913. Translation is in the beginning. And the name Jesus, which technically should be Joshua or Yeshua, um, has the value of 391, which is an anagram. 391 is an anagram of 913. We just simply move the 3 to the end, and we have 913. Again, tying it back to the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. And then looking at the numbers 37 and 73. Well, these are the first 37 composite numbers. Composite numbers are numbers that aren't prime. And these are the prime numbers up to 37. Okay. So we have the first 37 composites and the first prime numbers up to 73.
Wow.
Now remember, 37 is the 12th prime, and it happens to fall into this line right here where 12 is the 20, like 21, sorry, 20, the 21, which is the composite number, is the 12th number down. So we have it encoded 1221. And then straight across, 37 is the 12th one down. So what this is basically showing us is that the number 37 is the 12th prime, 73, the mirror opposite, is the 21st prime. If we took those two lines, combine them together, we get the number 58. That'll be important here in just a second. But also, if we take the first 37 composite numbers, total them up, and the prime numbers from 2 to 73, total them up, we get 1103 plus 712. Subtract those, and you have 391, which is directly back to the name Joshua or Jesus in Hebrew. Now, again, Jesus or Joshua in Hebrew has the value in Hebrew ordinal of 58. That's what I was showing right here. And the spread. So the spread is the difference between the standard numeration of a word and the ordinal. So we saw 391, which is here. We subtract 58, and we have the numbers 333. The numbers that started all of this for me. Now, Jesus Christ in Greek has the value of 2368. Take 2368 and add 333. We have 2701, which is the value of Genesis 1 in the Hebrew Bible. The connections get deep. So then I took a table, and this is essentially the first 169 digits after the decimal point of the number pi. Okay. So the number pi starts with 3, decimal point, then it goes 14159, so on, and reads across all the way down like this. This is the first 169. It forms a 13 by 13 grid. Why did I do the first 169? It's because of that number 13, which is what this reduces to up here. We start looking at this. So in Hebrew, Joshua, Christ, has the value of 754 in Hebrew. When we click 754 over here on this grid, check out the numbers that get selected. Every single one of them. All of these have the value of 754.
Wow.
Now, Joshua Christ in Hebrew ordinal has the value of 115. This will come up here in just a moment. And in Greek, the cross, in Greek ordinal, the cross has the value of 123. When we click 123, what do we get but the cross?
Wow. That's unbelievable again.
Well, check this out. So remember how I said a Hebrew ordinal was 115 for Joshua Christ? So the number 631 is the 115th prime number. And look what we get when we click on 631, the exact opposite
Wow.
of the cross. Now, Lord Jesus Christ in Greek ordinal has the value of 294. And look what we get, a cross. And it's the exact same cross that we got from the Vedic square. Now, when you take the number 37 to the 73rd power, so essentially what that means is taking 37 times 73 and doing it 37 times. You wind up with this astronomically large number. Okay, it's just huge. But when you take this number and you break it down and put commas after every single number, then you can take that and put it into what's called a summation calculator, and it'll give you the total for all those numbers. That total is 460. And look what we get over here on the grid with the numbers 460, the exact opposite of the cross.
Wow.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Nope.
And then, not to mention that the phrase Joshua the Messiah in Hebrew ordinal also has the value of 115. Now, this is rather interesting here. I took the Lord's Prayer and like just wrote it all out, and it fits perfectly into the shape of a cross.
Wow.
Okay. And then here it is. It's broken out into color coded. So this portion up here, the blue, there's 49 individual blocks here. So we can see the number down here. It's 49. So this one has 49, this one has 49, this one has 49, 49, and 49. So you add all of those up, you get 294, which is Lord Jesus Christ in Greek ordinal, 294.
Oh man.
I know, it just keeps getting more and more interesting. So taking the same thing and looking over here. So if we look at just the inside portion, the darker gray. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 25 of them. 25 times 6 is 150, and there are 150 Psalms in the Bible. And then the lighter portion going around, there's 24. 24 times 6 is 144, which is the equivalent of Lord Jesus Christ in Hebrew ordinal. If we replace that with the numbers 3 and 7, we get 3 times 49, because remember there's 49 in each section here, and there's 6 different ones. So 3 times 49 times 6 is 882. You do it with the 7s, and lo and behold, what do you get? 2058. Combine those together, 2058 plus 882 is 2,940, or another encoded 294, reference back to Lord Jesus Christ. But not to mention that the number 2940 will also give us numerology, Elohim consciousness, resurrecting of the dead. The stock market has crashed, which is interesting. Ties back into what Didier Sornay was talking about. And then the very last one, eclipse apocalypse.
Mm.
So again, tying back into the 19-year cycles of summer solstice solar eclipses, last one being in 2058, and we're getting the word apocalypse. Now, as I've said, this code runs deep. I've had people come to me and say, back when I started with the 1111 times 333, people have said, yeah, but you can do that with any number. Well, I thought, okay, let's check that out. Is that true? Let's see. I've got I have so many okay. Somewhere in here I have it. Or thought I did. Ah, here it is. So I took the numbers and it did the exact same formula. 1111 times 111, 222, 333, 444, and so on. Because I've had people contact me and say, I haven't seen 1111 or 333, but I see 222 or 444, 555, so on. Well, this gets very interesting. When you take 1111 times 111, you get 123, 321, and then doing the exact same process that I did with the 1111 times 333. So we add 1111 back to it. We generate the first number. We move it over to the side and then add it back to this number, just like we did down here. So instead of 369963 being added to every single number, it's going to be this number. Okay. And I've done the same thing over here. But this is the tie-in. Look at the third number. The third number is the first number of the 1111 matrix code. The sixth number is the second number. And the ninth number is the third number. Over here with 222, the third number is the second number. The sixth number is the fourth number. And the ninth number is the sixth number. So, not sure if you caught what I said there.
Yep.
The third, the sixth, and the ninth. It's 3, 6, 9 every single time. 3, 6, 9. Now, when we get to 333, well, it's every single number. And keep in mind that also back up here on these, the only ones that come back to 11, 11 are the ones that fall on 3, 6, and 9.
Wow.
Because right here, 4432 plus 12 is 4444. 7753 plus 24, 7777. And then obviously 1074 plus 37 is 1111. So every number that'll come back to 1111 falls on 3, 6, and 9. Now, here's the other pattern. So see how it's going 44, 44, 77, 77, and then 1111. Over here, it switches. 77, 77 is what starts it. 44, 44, and then 1111. So the 44, 44, and 77, 77 have swapped places. 1111 remains where it is. But reducing these numbers down, we see another sequence, 714, 714, 714. And then over here, 174, 174, 174. When we get to the 1111 times 333, we get 4444. It just repeats 444. Now, this is what's interesting too. Only 333, only 666, and only 999 will produce the numbers that come back to 1111.
Wow. So do you think these people that are seeing like, okay, I don't see that, but I see 222, is this just their particular code that they're locked into the matrix on, but it's all still tied together?
It shows that we are all receiving portions of the information.
Okay.
And I think it just took someone, and I think in this particular case, it happens to be me, because, and I really don't like showing people this, but I almost have to, just to kind of give them an idea. This is gematrianator.com. And so I go to ciphers, I turn all of them off, except for the Jewish one. And I don't know why. I don't know why it's coming through with the Jewish cipher, but it does. But imagine my surprise when I started seeing these phrases coming through, such as Garrick King decodes the God matrix, and it has the value of 1111.
It's all you. It cannot. You're the only one that has the patience, I think, to put this. I can't imagine the amount of work. It's just,
It's well there, and there's more. So there was in God, Garrick King is the chosen mathematician, 1111. Um, Garrick King is here. He has a purpose, 1111. And my favorite one is Garrick King, Aliens Made You, has the value of 1111.
they made all of us.
Yeah. So, and then when you look at things like that, like in God, Garrick King is the chosen mathematician, and then you go back and you look at these, um, where was it? So represent the chosen mathematician, 1111.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm so
It's those.
privileged to have you on here.
Well, and I mean, it's a huge, huge puzzle. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is. It really,
Hmm.
truly is. And this code either predicted 9/11, or if it was orchestrated, whoever did it orchestrated it around this number 11 or 1111. And I don't know what the purpose of that would be. But when you look at and you break down well, just look at the date itself, 9/11. So 9
Hmm.
plus 1 is 11. But when you start breaking down the times and the flight numbers, those numbers will reduce down to 11,
Mm.
and it's consistent. Um,
And you've had everything with the 11 and the 9 too, with the floor and there's only nine numbers, before they start repeating. So that's just, yeah, interesting.
yeah, yeah. And then really quickly, and I don't know how we are on time. We can make this the last part of it if you want. Um, but I've done more encoding. So we know that 144 is the value of Lord Jesus Christ in Hebrew. So I took an 11 by 11 multiplication table, set it up, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. But when I click on this, we get the cross, and it has the value of 144. Now, I want to point out 36 in the center is not getting selected. It's only 30, 30, 42, and 42.
Mm.
But we get a cross shape. Watch what happens. That also has 144. See how they're moving out?
Hmm.
They all have the total of 144. Now they will start to move around the board to all four corners.
Wow.
And then they move back to the corners, and then they come back in, and we get this, which would technically be the opposite of the cross. And then as we move down, they move out, move around the board. And I'm going to have to zoom this out until they've touched every single number and come to their final resting place, which is 12, 24, and 36 and 72.
Mm.
So just want to point out some stuff here very quickly. That symbol that we saw earlier for the sun has the value of 1440 or an encoded 144. Everything, the surrounding area, has the same value, 1440, or an encoded 144.
Mm.
Now, this symbol here, and I forgot to mention this on Rex's show when I was on there, but what is this symbol? Well, this symbol is essentially, I'm showing where the numbers stopped down here at the end. So I'm drawing a line from 12 to 24, 24 down to what was it, 72, 72 over to 36. That's what that is. Because when you look here, 12 reduces to 3, 24 reduces to 6, 72 reduces to 9, 3 and 6 is 9. This one never gets selected. So if we come back up here to 2 and 4, we have 6. And back to 3, we literally have 3, 6, 9, 9, 6, 3, which is the value or the number we get when you take 11, 11 times 3, 3, 3. So that's what that is showing the lines being drawn from those numbers. But check this out. 1650, if you were to create that entire shape up here, you get the value of 1650. 1650 produces the phrase, "It's time for us to leave." The final code to break Christ's second coming is the Alpha and Omega. Then I began to question this shape. Like, what is this? And to me, it looked like an E. And I was like, okay. So I, tried rotating it. We have to rotate it 135 degrees, which I want to point out 135 reduces to 9. If we produce that exact same shape up here, we get the number 760. And 760 gives us consciousness, secret code key, ascension, guardians.
Mm.
And then just to point out the 1440s, if we were to leave the zeros there, we get Garrick King reveals the hand of God, has the value of 1440, sign of times, reoccurring numbers. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Reoccurring numbers. They're showing up
Wow.
over and over and over.
Wow.
What was 1224? Was it, hang on a second here. Was
Oh, you
it?
got utility blackout there.
Yes. But I'm trying to remember where 1224 plays into this. It does, but I don't remember where it was. And then interestingly enough, also the swastika, which is also an ancient symbol for the sun, shows up perfectly on the board. Also has the exact value of 1440, the sun. And then Micah Dank, when I was showing this to him, he said, "Have you tried doing the mirror opposite?" Which I already had. It's also 1440. And then down here, what talked about the alpha and omega. So if we create the A for alpha, we also get 1440. Oh, I know where the 1224 came from. Sorry. It's these numbers up here where the numbers stopped. So 1, 2, and 2, 4. If you combine those together and create a number, 1224, it gives us world on fire, which is what would happen if we had a solar eclipse that left out from the sun to the earth. And I've talked about this before, that if it is a solar flare, that it would be like the hand of God reaching out and wiping us off the planet. And up here we saw Garrick King reveals the hand of God. And if it is the sun, and the sun of God is also the sun in the sky, and it's a solar flare, coming to
Mhm.
the earth, it would essentially be the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And then the last two numbers where it stopped, 36 and 72, when you combine those two numbers together, you have 3672. You get the end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray.
Mm.
And then, of course, 1650. Now, as I mentioned up here, the 36 was never getting selected in this first digit here. So I created this shape with the middle portion being black because, again, the 36 is never getting selected. And then when the numbers come down and start coming back into the board, we get the opposite of the cross. So 25 and 35 and 35 and 49, it would be this shape here. And we can see how perfectly that fits in there.
Mhm.
Now, the most bizarre thing is I only made that red because I had these symbols up here in red. I was just trying to make it stand out. I made the center portion of it black because 36 wasn't getting selected. When you put it into this shape, I went to Google, and because I when I saw that, I was like, that looks like it means something. What could that mean? So I go to Google and I typed in black square inside red square. And lo and behold, look what pops up.
Storm warning. Wow.
Storm warning. That is the flag they use when there is a storm warning. If you
Wow.
recall back to the Gematria connections, it talked about where was it? Time is running out. Oh, somewhere in here. Let's do this. Storm. That's not finding it. Somewhere in here, it talked about the calm before the storm. There's a storm coming. So it literally showed up in the first 11 numbers of the 1111 matrix code when they were split. One thing I want to point out very quickly here for anyone that's looking at this, I talked about the last four digits. When you look over here, you only see three. That's because zero is the fourth or the beginning of the number, and zero does not calculate at the beginning of the number. So that's why they're
Mhm.
removed. But we get the calm before the storm, and there's a storm coming. And what are the chances that we would get this symbol showing up out of nowhere just because I chose to um
You must have flipped out when you saw that.
I did. I did because it was just like, okay. And every time I'd go back to my brother with this, he would say the exact same thing. He's like, this cannot be a coincidence at this point.
Oh no,
It
it's
just
impossible.
literally cannot.
We're trillions to one or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would have to be something so astronomical. I don't know. It just seems beyond comprehension.
I think your soul memory's like, okay, red square, put the black in the center. Like it's just kind of coming through you, just like when you're getting the thoughts in your head.
Well, and Micah made the comment too that he thinks that I'm receiving downloads, um, which is odd and it kind of makes sense in a way because there's times when I'm in bed at night sleeping that I have a hard time shutting my brain off. And
Hmm.
I will have these moments where it appears with my eyes shut that like I don't know, I guess you would just call it like a sheet of paper is being slid over in front of my face, but I'm seeing it through my eyelids and it's happening so fast. So it like slides over, pauses for like a split second, slides off, and then another one comes, it slides off, another one comes, it slides off, and it'll just happen repeatedly over and over and over and over and over. almost as if it's giving my brain, my subconscious, the opportunity to see and absorb the information, but it's not staying long enough for me to retain it, like in my waking state. It's only been like inserted into my subconscious.
Yeah, I think that's the veil lifting, and I think you're getting it from your soul memory. Like you're starting to see, because they've tried to make us blind to this, but you're starting to see it when your mind's quiet. Because that happens to me too, and some other people on my channel that it's always at night, you're trying to sleep.
Yeah,
And then you
exactly.
got to write it down because you're going to forget or whatever. But so are you worn out? Do you have time just for a couple questions or
Yeah,
do you want to
sure.
keep going? Okay.
No. Yeah,
And also, do you by chance have handy that one slide that you showed on Rex's channel with like the Star of David, like how you just a visual image of those numbers? I think that'd be cool for some people to see. Of course, they can always go over to Rex Bear's channel and see the chunk that you didn't put in here. It's just, yeah, I just keep saying unbelievable. But I mean, that was like the best video I'd ever seen. I was like, wow, here it is, our answers.
well,
Because a
there
lot of
was,
this stuff, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what you're talking about is um, this here.
Yeah.
So this was essentially done by, I was watching a YouTube video called The Torah Codes. And they talked about how the Bible code, the Torah codes, how they were discovered by using ELS, which is equidistant letter sequencing. So they would go through and I guess choose a number, could be 4, 7, whatever. They would go through the Bible, and so they would start with the first letter and then count over 4 or whatever number they chose, and then selected the next letter and then the next letter and the next letter and so on, and it would start to form these new phrases. So I began to wonder, well, what would happen if I applied that to the 1111 matrix code? So I took all the numbers that were generated. Well, not all of them. I did like the first grouping, and I put them into a Word document and lined them out just like a book with, no spaces or anything. Started with the first number, which is 3. And let me go back to over here. Okay, so I started with 3 and then I counted over. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one would be 7. And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one would be 1. So as you can see, it plays out here 3, 7, 1, and so on. It was very tedious work doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but after it was done, I began to see this really interesting sequence of numbers coming out of this. And which was bizarre because you have to keep in mind that I removed every number in between. I kept only every fourth number. So what struck me straight away was, of course, it started with 37. And let me move this up here a little bit. And then it went into this long string of numbers, and then we started seeing this 91000010, then a whole long string of numbers, and then I saw that 91000010 repeated, and then a whole bunch of long numbers, and then that number repeated again, and it kept repeating itself with all these numbers in between. So I took that section out just by itself and moved it over here. So we can see the 91000 numbers here, and then the rest of the numbers. This is what was interesting. All of those numbers were exactly the same in blue. They all reduce to the number 11. Then there was those sequences of numbers that fell in between each one of them. Well, the first one and the second one, this whole entire string of numbers is identical. Every single part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are they identical, but they're palindromes. They're the same forwards and backwards. Now, the numbers here, they look identical, but they're not. And then these last three lines here, they also appear to be identical to these and these, but they're not. That's why I have these red lines here. So if we look here, we can see the number 4, and then it comes down, and we have 3, 3, 3. Okay. And then here we have 5s, and then it goes 6, 6, 6. Then up here we have 7 and 7, and then it's 6s all the way down. And then over here we have 2, 2, and 3 all the way down. So although they may look alike, they're different. But every single line, all 9 lines, each one has the value of 232, which in Hebrew gives us the phrase, the word of the Lord, repeated over and over. And
Wow.
when you look at those red lines there, what does it look like? 1111
Hmm.
encoded right in there.
And the arrows going up too, those 4
Yeah. It
arrows.
was actually 3 arrows going up.
Oh, it was 3. That's right. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So right encoded in
Interesting.
there, 1111. But as we start to break it down and look at the numbers, so we got the word of the Lord repeated 9 times. We get this long portion here, which falls in between the numbers 37 and 37, which has the value of 212. It's the light. We just saw that earlier with the light. It was the first thing that God said was good. And then after the 37, we have this portion here in this kind of maroon color, has a value of 165, and in Greek gives us the alpha high. So as I begin looking at these numbers, finding these patterns, these images started to form. We get the Star of David in the second portion. It's literally fitting perfectly within a cross if you look at the gray section.
Hmm.
And we start getting these interesting phrases. So inside of that star, the white portion, every single bit of it has the value of 923. And in Hebrew, that's the value given to the phrase, the information is revealing. It certainly is.
Yes, it is.
And then what's interesting is the middle portion. It's the green and the yellow, has the value of 972. And we get the phrase in Hebrew, how to destroy the world.
Mm.
And then 963 is the value given to the gray portion that makes up the rest of that actually forms the cross. And keep in mind, 963 is the mirror opposite of 369. In Hebrew, it gives us in calculation of the end. So literally, it's telling us the information is revealing how to destroy the world in calculation of the end.
Hmm.
And then what are the chances that the portion of the star that's pointing up to the heavens actually in Hebrew forms the word heavens? It has the same value, 395. The one pointing down has the value of 344, which gives us the sign.
Mm.
And then 612 is the value of the green portion, which is testament. And then the cross in the center has the value of 360 and gives us in Hebrew, creator of the world. So it keeps going back to,
Yeah, this solar flare, this sign in the heavens, the
well,
ending
and
the
what are the
world.
chances that right here, encoded right here, is 149 and it says sun flare?
Oh, wow. So, yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of things because when you were talking about the cut down, because I think we're the corn, they want to cut down the corn. We got the harvest going on, which is connected to the ascension, and in the New Age movement, all the 5D stuff. So I think of it as sticking us into the new virtual or the reset. but I don't know. I've got so much here that I don't want to ask all these questions, but because I'm just sitting here smiling the entire time you're talking. But the let's see, like let us create man in our image. That to me is the gods. So the gods of the Matrix, or with the ultimate God of the Matrix. I mean, there's just so much here. I don't even know where to go. And even with populating other places, Mars, they've been talking about populating that, which I think they already are, but oh, I don't even know where to go with all this. Even you were talking about like the numbers going up and the plateau at the top with the sun pyramid. And I'm wondering if that's why the Pyramid of Giza doesn't have the top on it. I mean, there's just I'm all over the map here. So I think maybe a question would be, um, can we insert code into this and stop this whole never ending loop, because you've got the 17, the good, which is the false light, because I think it's dark. It's a cube with false light and dark. And so the 17 is the good and the light, which is the golden age we might be moving into. And then we flip back to the dark age and then the golden. So do you think there's any kind of thing we can insert into this code here that we're obviously in to upset the program, stop the sun from doing this? Because it just seemed like if God put, I forget how you worded it, but he set everything there. It obviously is some kind of mechanism, the sun. I don't know. That might be a big question, but
Well, I think it is telling us, in a sense, because I want to point this out here very quickly too. This portion right here, this large portion in this sort of salmon color, it's actually told to us in Hebrew in this section, 20,058 final end. And
okay.
that phrase in Hebrew has that same value as this block portion right here. And what's most interesting is my name. Oh, actually, so right here, and then this purple portion down here has the value of 139, which in Hebrew gives us the phrase, discover the secret of this. And my name, Garrick King, in Hebrew, when translated to Hebrew, has the value of 477, and it literally crosses that
Wow.
20,058 final end and Garrick, or discover the secret of this. And it does it twice, once in Hebrew and once using the Jewish cipher. Now, this whole portion here where the star touches at the top and touches at the bottom, there's these green lines going across here. These green lines, all or both, have the value of 333.
Wow.
What are the chances?
Yep. That
So,
oh, keep going.
I was just
Sorry.
going to say, it almost seems to be telling us in a sense of how we can do it. Because as we get down to that second portion here with the pyramids and the crosses showing up, it flat out tells us there will be disaster. Come the great and terrible day of Yahweh. The days are coming. The end is in the Torah. And then it says the forbidden information explained. So there's a portion here that has the value of 277, and 277 is the value given to each one of those phrases in Hebrew. The
Mm,
forbidden, information, and explained. They all have the same value.
mm.
And then also says last redemption in our time. It also tells us there is no end of light, light infinity, which is essentially saying the same thing. There is no end to light, light infinity. It's the same thing. And then love. And that's what's interesting to me in Hebrew. The word love has the value of 414, but so does the entire phrase, there is no end of light. So you have one, two, three, four, five, six words having the same value as a single word.
Mm.
And then we get the matrix code is divine. light and love, the population, and it is designed. I have said this since the very beginning. All of this is showing that this has been designed. It's designed to be this way. It's been designed this way from the very beginning.
Hmm.
Um, we see the sword, which my brother made the reference as like a solar flare leaping off from the sun to the earth. Would that not be like a sword? So we have the sword in the sky, the creator of man, destroy everything. And then it tells us, and that being is God. And then it says, and let there be an end, and the end is the beginning.
I'm wondering if that sword also is some type of device because I've been talking about that for a while, and that's what they trigger with the solar flare and all that. But so I kind of get the feeling. So you came here programmed to take this down. I think like your soul came in to help stop this, possibly. This is my theory. So if they can read that in there that you're going to be programmed specifically to disrupt this, could the elite be moving up that date or trying to anyway, the 2058 date? Because it just feels like they're doing a lot of stuff screwing with time or trying to alter things.
It's very possible. And I think this is the portion that I was going to show you, where I think the way out, the way to reprogram this, because what are they doing right now? They are dividing us like crazy, dividing people up like crazy. They're doing
Yeah.
everything in their power to separate us, um, in every way imaginable. But there's this portion, and it literally starts with the number 33, which we talked about was the age that Christ was supposedly at the age of, or at the time of his crucifixion, he was supposed to have been 33 years old. But 33 in Hebrew gives us also the phrase live in love. Now, very quickly, up above it, I want to point out there's a portion here that's coded that has the value of 342, and 342 is the value given to each one of these phrases. They will build shelters.
Hmm.
So we already know that the government has built these DUMBs, these deep underground military bases.
Hmm.
Um, and if it's a solar flare event, that could be the reason why they've built them.
They go underground. Yeah.
They go underground. We also get the fear will be immense. Well, of course it will. If they come out and announce that this is going to happen, imagine the fear of people. It's going to be immense. It also says a date has been set, and it says pain in January.
That's interesting.
So my fear, or my not my fear, but my thought is that they're aware of this event that's going to take place. They know it, that they're preparing for it,
Yeah.
but they're not going to tell us until the very last minute. And they're going to say, we can take a certain number of you, but we can't take everyone. And those that are left are going to have to fend for themselves. But there's these words that come in the middle of this. And that's what's weird. So we up here we have 342. We had those phrases. They will build shelters. The fear will be immense. A date has been set in pain in January. If we jump down to this line here, we have the number 55. 55 is the value given to the words sun, the earth, everything gone.
Hmm.
Now, what are the chances that each one of those would have that same value
Mm.
and read in that order? Sun, the earth, everything gone. And then directly below it, remember how it said Garrick King reveals the hand of God? Well, directly below it, we have hand of God. And then below that, brought by hand. And then the phrase, I'm back with a sword and doomsday. And
Yeah.
then it simply tells us right below that, the beginning is the end.
Well, screw them.
Yeah. Well, here's the part. Here's where I think we might be able to put a glitch in this somehow. We can hack the matrix, but it's going to take, I don't know what it would take to actually make this happen for every person on this planet to come together. Because in the middle of all of that, we get these phrases: live in love without
Hmm.
limit. This is the power. And then it repeats the phrase live in love. We get the word united. And then we get the phrase, and he will redeem. So it seems to be telling us right in the middle of that, that is how we can stop this. If we could all come together and live in love without limit, this is the power that we all have.
Well, I'm going to kind of insert something in here. I don't know if you'll find it interesting or if this is outside your, I don't think it is because you've got a really open mind here. But so when I've been reading on this, I saw that there was roughly 30% souls here, and the rest were just part of the matrix, the NPCs. And that number seemed to be going up and down, and it seems like it's around 33, which is interesting. Um, so I think possibly with what you're saying, maybe we only need the actual souls here, the 33% to wake up, or a certain portion. That's what I've kind of been feeling. So we don't need every single person on the planet because I think that would be I don't think it would be realistic. You always have that percentage that resists. But if that's true, what I'm saying, which can't really be proven, but maybe this is possible. And because I do feel like this is some type of wave coming in here right now to do this very thing, and they don't like it.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's
Another
interesting
thing.
that you say that because maybe those of us who are seeing the numbers and awakening to this are the 33% that you talked about,
Mhm.
because it did say earlier that, where was it? Only the chosen can see.
Mm, yeah.
And if we go back to this and we look where it says live in love without limit, this is the power. And then earlier, the code told us, uh, looking back at the summer solstice solar eclipses, where we broke it down and it said, looks like I might have closed it, but where it talked about multiple infinite waves of love.
You know what, with that chosen thing, because they think they're the chosen. And I think that's why they've hybridized themselves to be part human, part AI, part human, so they can be part of the chosen. I think they're trying to hijack this whole thing from us coming in to do this. So if and also when Rex said he said there was a Navajo prophecy where the sun goes from yellow to white to glittery. Now I
Hmm.
haven't read that, but I know on my channel we've been tracking the sun, and I talked about that a while ago, maybe a year or two ago, about how the sun looks white now, and it didn't look white in my childhood; it looked yellow. So I don't know about the glittery. I haven't I haven't tracked it, but if it is something that's set in the sky by the gods, then they're going to trigger this thing. But and the return of the gods, they want to take on form, the giants and all that with the reset. But I just have one more question for you, if you don't mind, unless there's more you
Sure.
want to talk about, because this is from a listener of my channel. They wanted me to ask you. We each have so many numerical or numerological coordinates in the matrix, so many numbers in our lives, such as date of birth, mobile phone, postcode, social security number, and so on, even an IP address. Is it possible to be invisible or off grid in the matrix? I don't know if you have an answer to that. And does he have any ideas how we can take it down? Of course, we were just talking about that part of it, but do you think maybe changing some of those numbers or your connections to those um, numbers? Because I talk about in my book, like changing your name, which is what you did, which is interesting. Your name changed, and it changes what you're doing,
Hmm.
or the effect the matrix has on you. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that or not.
To be honest, I don't know. Because it does seem like a small change like that will change the outcome of everything. Because if I had never changed my name, then a lot of this would not make any sense because simply Garrick Staggs decodes the God matrix has an entirely different value than 1111.
Hmm.
And so it was only through that process of changing my name that all of this really started. So it was almost as though it was meant to happen regardless. And I don't know that it goes down, it gets really tricky when you start looking at it that way, because if we're already seeing this information being decoded, then is it already designed to be a certain way? I don't know. But
All questions to ponder, right?
exactly. But the fact that the code was even placed there in the first place leads me to think that it was meant to be discovered. And and especially when you look at those phrases that my name show up in, like Garrick King decodes the God Matrix. I mean, that's exactly what I've done. And it's
We're
so weird
smarter
to
than the
me.
code. This code is simplistic and repeating and goes back to one and zero. I mean, we're smarter, I think, as souls, we're smarter than the code.
Right. Well,
Um,
I only called this the God Matrix because, well, for one, all the references back to God, and because all the references to the Matrix showing up. That's really the whole reason I called it, the 1111 Matrix code. And
well, if
it's
you're
just interesting.
go
Well,
ahead.
you
In the Matrix movie, the source or the God is where all the machines live. So there is a
right.
God of the Matrix, the one-eyed God, but that's what I think.
Right. But it was just odd that I would call it the 1111 Matrix code and then have the phrase Gary King decodes the God Matrix having the same value as 1111. I mean, again, what are the chances of that?
Yeah, there is no the chances are just yeah, there is no chance of that happening, no coincidence. But yeah, I kind of think of us as the gods or the true God, extension of a true creator. We're children of God or whatever you want to say, and we created AI. So AI is trying to be the God here, and we're the true gods coming to, or the extensions of God coming to, take this down. Basically, I think. Um, I don't know how you feel, but that's what I think. Do you
Well, there is. Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead? I hate interrupting you because you're a wealth of knowledge here.
Well, it is interesting because one of the other things that I do is, and I only started this when COVID started, which was learning how to do spirit communication and scrying. And I was using a one of those ghost apps. Um, and I was very skeptical at first, and I went through all these different testing uh, phases to make sure that the messages that were coming through weren't coming from a network or something like that. So I had it set up, and I turned my phone or my iPad. I can't remember which one I was using, but um, I turned all the cellular data off. I turned the Wi-Fi off. I took out the SIM card. Turned Bluetooth off. Everything before I did a session. And I was doing one where I do believe 100% that I made contact with my father. He answered very specific questions. He answered them accurately. And I, and of course, this is before any of this started. Um, but I did ask him if he knew why I was seeing the number 1111. And his response was, "What is it?" And it was just the way it was said that it felt to me like it was he's asking me a question or I'm asking him a question and he's responding with a question in order to
Mhm.
buy time. And I said, "Is it important?" And then he said one word, which was might. And then before anything else could be said, there was two other voices that came through. One of them said, "You can't answer that." And the other one said, "You can't tell him."
Yeah, that's so creepy. I think maybe he might have been trying to tell you what is it. Like research what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think either he couldn't tell me because I meant to find the information on my own, not just have it delivered to me, Um, but it was very odd that there seemed to be two other people there that were stopping him, or like an operator of sorts, that is
Yep.
keeping him from saying certain things. And ever since then, I have been unable to connect with him at all.
Yeah, they cut that communication.
Yeah.
That's super creepy too. So you're hearing it. I see it like when I go in and look at people's light body, I've seen that Star of David around them, the Merkaba. I've seen a cube with the Merkaba and the atom spirograph. And when you take those away, you can see the cord to the avatar, and the hooks into all the chakras and things. So it's like, I could be imagining all that. We could be imagining all these things. Um, so for my viewpoint or what I say, I could be, I could just be imagining everything, but you're just really showing it here. You're hearing it on the spirit box. You're showing it here in these graphs and this amazing work. So have you ever thought about, or have you put this in a book? Or, is there a book we can buy to support you? Is there a place to donate for, this is just massive amounts of time. I mean, this is just massive.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's literally been a year now, over a year, and I'm still plugging away. I'm still decoding, still finding information.
Wow.
As far as a book, I have considered putting a book together. It's really just the idea of taking all this information and compiling it into a book, and have it make sense. Um, because it's almost like one of those choose your own adventure books, because you would read through and you would get to a certain point and then you'd have to jump back because there's a connection there towards something at the very beginning, and then you'd have to jump back and back. It would just be like back and forth because all of this stuff, like, it ties back in. So it would really take a lot of, I mean, it's taken a
You
lot
could
of
just
dedication
you could
already.
repeat the image, just show the image, and then when you mention the number, repeat the image. You
Yeah.
could take these videos and just type it up,
Yeah.
word for word, just how you presented it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
And
don't know if there's time for all that. But
I am considering it though. I am considering putting it into a book because I feel like the information, like, I feel like that's my purpose. I mean,
yeah.
I'm supposed to give this information out there, let people know. I don't know how many people I have. Literally, at one point, I had over like 11 to 12. I think it was even up to 13,000 emails.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
ever since I started, like, the very first time I started putting this information out there, the emails just started pouring in. And I
Yeah.
apologize. There's no way I will ever get through that many emails.
No.
Um, but it shows that there are people out there that are having and going through this exact same experience, seeing the exact same numbers, and they don't know why. And I think this helps bring some light that we're awakening to something that's going to take place. And it's all laid out here for us. And now
Mhm.
it's, what do we do with the information?
Start messing with the numbers, I guess, to start with. The numbers we've been given and these scripts we're on. I don't know.
I
Definitely
mean,
with I think a lot of it's in those messages you've got decoded with the gematria.
yeah, I mean, I believe 100% that if we could all come together as a people and stop putting race, sexual gender, all this stuff, and
Hmm.
just, I mean, just let all of that go, because we are one people on this planet. Doesn't
Yep.
matter whether we have different colored skin or different sexual preferences or anything like that. It doesn't matter. We're all human and we're all in this together. If we would come to that realization and stop fighting one another and live in love without limit, as the message
Hmm.
tells us, that could literally break this entire cycle that's been happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the divisiveness, all that. But definitely the souls are coming together. I mean, this is part of it. I did get a sense when I was intuitively reading on this that maybe some of the souls still need to stay asleep to not alert too much to this matrix because it might have systems and alarms and stuff that it could set off and trigger something early. Um, because I kept getting like the critical mass, half of the souls need to be awake. And if that is true, there's 30 to 33% souls here. I think the number goes up and down a little bit as people leave and new come in. But if that is true, then we really only need half of that. Um, I don't know. I don't know if that's something that could actually be discovered in your work too, but
Well, I believe that there are people in not the elite necessarily, but in Hollywood who are also aware of this information. How they came to be aware of it, I don't know, but they are putting pieces out there for us because this I believe this information is encoded in the movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage.
mm,
Um, because it's almost a very similar experience. His son um receives a bunch of papers that were part of a time capsule that the school that he goes to, the kids 50 years prior to him being there, did a time capsule of what they thought that the you know um, the future would look like 50 years from then. And so, 50 years go by, they open up the time capsule. Every student, in the class gets a sheet of paper. Well, most of them all got pictures of rockets and all this stuff, but Nicolas Cage's son gets this sheet or multiple sheets of paper that have nothing but numbers written on it, just over and over and over.
ooh,
And he goes through, he starts decoding and realizing that those numbers are not only predicting disasters, it's giving the longitude and latitude of where the disaster is going to take place. It's giving, I think, the time, the month and day, and the number of people that are going to die in that disaster.
oh wow.
Well, the very last one is a solar flare event.
Oh geez.
Now, that movie came out in 2009. 2 and 9's 11. 2009 is also when I started seeing the number 333. The movie's 121 minutes long, the equivalent of
And
11 times 11.
and your birthday, 9/2.
Yes. The new Matrix film is they've hidden things in that movie. I'll show you this very, very quickly. Um, so at the very beginning, have you seen the new movie?
Uh-uh. I
Okay.
hardly watch anything.
Well, in the new film, there is well, here, let's just jump back to this. So they're looking at I think this is in the first film. So they're looking at Neo's documents that are in Agent Smith's
Oh, you're talking about Matrix. I thought you were still on Knowing. Sorry, I'm
no,
losing it.
no, no. Yeah,
Okay.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
I've seen the
Matrix.
movies. Yep.
Okay. So if we look at the information on Neo's records. So it says date of last amendment or addition was 22 July. Well, 22 is 11/11. He was born March 11th. We can also, let's see here, look at his driver's license. So September, which is 9. Um, Actually, that's more of what I want to show is over here. This is in the new film. There's a scene where the character Bugs is jumping from one building to another and she's sliding down this large sign. And it makes no sense that she's sliding down a sign that says Anderson. And at the bottom, for those, and I'm sorry for swearing, but it says for those who love to eat shit.
If the character's name is Bugs,
Bugs.
well, they are trying to get us to eat bugs. That's their new thing.
Well, I think she's called Bugs because she has Bugs Bunny tattooed on her. And I think it's supposed to be
Yeah.
kind of a reference to Alice in Wonderland, like follow the white rabbit. But
Which is all the oh, I won't say that word. Yeah, there's a lot to that. Also the plague of the bugs, but go ahead.
yeah. So when you take that phrase for those who love to eat shit, um, the Jewish reduction is 11. The Jewish ordinal is 11. And the Jewish standard is 2585, which 25 plus 85 is 110, or an encoded 11. But 2585 in Gematria gives us the phrases, "We warned you," "Those that are dangerously brainwashed." This one's interesting. "You are my end and you are my beginning."
Mm.
"What is the energy source of a human being?" And "Remove the veil from their eyes." Now, when you take 2585 plus its mirror opposite, 5852, you get 8437. And when you take 8437 and put it next to its mirror opposite, you actually get an encoded 3773 right in the middle of the numbers. 84 and 37 also become 121, which is 11 plus, or 11 times 11. Um, let's see here. Yeah, 8437 in Gematria also gives us the phrases, the definition of sheeple. And this entire phrase, that's what's interesting. These entire phrases are the value of 8437. So the definition of sheeple, people that think the president is in charge, who can't see both parties are in bed with each other and herding us to the same satanic New World Order. That entire phrase has that value. Activation codes received. Humanity responds as higher light enters the planet in fullness and in force. Flashpoints are noted and stabilization protocols are enabled. Clarity of mind and heart come. Now, what's interesting is they spelt humanity with an E in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this sign in the film has the E burnt out, which means they've added it there in order to get this total. But in actuality, we should remove it. And then we also see the phrase, "When young people begin to show symptoms of neurodevelopmental emotional problems, you can bet
Mm.
a round of vaccines preceded it."
Mm.
And there's
Wow.
also the additional E added in there. And then there's another sign on top of the building that says Sabor Muerte, which is, I believe, Spanish, and it means taste of shit. Why are
Mm.
these signs on there? Well, because the phrases have value. They have meaning in numbers. So
Yeah.
Sabor Muerte is 353. 11. It reduces to 11. 353 gives us God's a math code, the force of light, solar flare,
Mm.
Higgs boson, so a connection to CERN, and darkened skies, which is exactly
Mm.
what would happen in the event of a solar flare.
Wow. God's a math code.
Yeah. And this is all encoded in the very first film. Now, the building number, 155. Well, 1 plus 5 is 11. The police car, 42, 334. The numbers are separated. They're not directly next to each other. So to me, that suggested taking 334, subtract 42, you get 292. So it's almost an encoded 1111 if you look at it forwards and backwards, because it is a palindrome. So 2 plus 9 is 11, and then backwards, 2 plus 9 is 11. So it's encoded right here.
Yeah.
They are running out of a theater. The movie is called Root of All Evil. Root of all evil in Jewish gematria has the value of 1111. And I can prove that. So if we just copy that, go back over here, paste it in, root of all evil, 1111. So again, you have to look at this as, and then look right here on the side of the building, 777. And if this is root of all evil and it has the value of 1111 and it's theater number 1, is that suggesting we add the additional 1, which takes us back to that phrase that we talked about in the beginning of this conversation that was part of the error, where it brought the numbers back to 5 ones instead of 4 ones? We are in an artificial matrix. We are slaves. We are being punished. We are being further tested and tried like silver 7 times in the fire. The few and refined shall rise.
Wow. You must be screaming as you discover this stuff. Oh my God.
It's at the point now that when something like that happens, I just sit here and go, "Yep, of course it does." I mean, it's no longer a shock, you know. I
So
mean,
is
yeah,
this the case?
obviously
Is this the case where you're talking about where maybe celebrities or producers or somebody's trying to help us here by
it's
putting this out?
possible. Yeah, it's possible that they are aware of this information and they are, leaking it in a sense, but you have to know how to decode it.
Mm. Oh
And I think
yeah. Well, they
I
can't, they don't want the Matrix to pick this up. Even that 777 like kind of has a line through it like they do when they give you those codes to type in there so the so somebody can't like a AI can't, to prove you're a human, I guess.
yeah,
So
those
maybe this is
captchas.
so the Matrix doesn't pick it up or something.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too, and just to show that that's exactly what they do, that
Oh,
they
there's the
hide.
cross.
Oh, yes. It's right
Two of
there.
them.
Yeah. Well, and this Lito Rodriguez is actually a fictional character, and it's a character that was in the Wachowski, well, I guess it's sisters now. So they did a TV show, and I forgot the name of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Um, but the character Lito Rodriguez is a character in that TV show that they did. So it goes to show already how they will hide Easter eggs into films and
Yeah.
do these connections. So it's not a stretch of the imagination that if they're aware of this information, they would also do the same thing.
Well, look at the red carpet. So you never have a red carpet going into a theater. So that suggests celebrities walking the red carpet. We have this "We Are Slaves, we were being punished." That kind of says to me, the theories of some of them are being turned into clones, or they're signing their name on the dotted line, signing their soul away, all that kind of stuff. So maybe this is also talking about themselves. We are slaves, we're being punished
Yeah.
and tested and tried, and who's the most loyal. Those are the ones that will get to be refined and reborn in the phoenix egg, these bloodlines and all this. Just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you find these connections, I mean, like this, and especially with like, 9/11, how it connects into 9/11 and it's it just goes to show that this code runs deep. It runs so deep through, in the beginning, like the information it was coming to me and I was trying to make or trying to just grasp an understanding as to why. But as I've gone through and decoded it, it's not just me. We're all a part of this. We're
Yeah.
all a part of it.
That symbol on that door is interesting too, with the like it might looks like it might be something or even something you've drawn, possibly.
Right
'Cause
there.
it looks like a Z with a thing through it.
Yeah.
And then the lights up at the top are kind of like the horns. I don't know, maybe I'm reading in too much, but the gateway, it's like the gateway entrance into their satanic cult.
Well, and it's interesting here, but if you look, we have this door over here that is pure light and this door over here that is pure black.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. And we have the
Yeah.
red and the black, of course.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's almost like the yin and yang, as above, so below. I mean, all these, different tie-ins. You could literally say that, the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. And I mean, it keeps going.
Yeah, the planning of this is just unreal. Just even this shot right here.
Yeah. And this scene literally shows up in the movie for a brief second. I don't think, I mean, you'd almost have to know what you were looking for. If you were just watching the film, it doesn't even happen long enough for you to be able to read what's on the sign.
Wow. Yeah, I'm
So
sure that going through those movies screen by screen, is, I think there's a lot of people doing that, but
yeah, I wasn't
amazing.
even able to do a screen capture. I had to take my phone out and photograph the computer screen.
Oh,
because when you try to
wow.
do a screen grab, it only gives you a black image.
Oh,
It won't,
really? Wow.
yeah, it won't allow you to screenshot it.
I guess they got to be super careful if somebody is trying to put this information out for the good, they'd have to be very
Yeah,
careful.
yeah. One last thing is there was another sign on a building, and it was the blast, and the blast has the value of 326, which reduces to 11. And
Mm,
326 produces set me free, undeniable, deep thinker, the code decoder, earth hidden code, read the God code. I hate cops, which is interesting since there's nothing but cops in this
shooting
image. And then
shooting
fingers,
up the cop car like people are doing.
yeah. And then the word fingers, or the two words, finger slip. That stood out to me because of the error that I made that I talked about earlier. It was a slip of the finger that I typed the wrong digit,
Hmm.
and simply getting finger slip tied back into that. And I was like, what? And then
Yeah, that's super
lastly,
interesting.
um, Neo's medication that he's taking is ontofloxacin, which is a derivative of the word ontology, which is a branch of philosophy that studies concepts such as existence, being, becoming, and reality. It includes the questions of how entities are grouped into basic categories and which of these entities exist on the most fundamental level. Ontology is sometimes referred to as the science of being and belongs to the major branch of philosophy known as metaphysics.
Hmm.
Now, if you look at the pharmacy, it's Folly Bridge Pharmacy. And Folly Bridge House is one of Oxford's iconic buildings. Uh, it's essentially where Alice in Wonderland was invented by Lewis.
Oh, geez. Oh, wow.
So again, that just goes to show how,
The detail.
yeah, the detail, the depths that they will go to encode and hide information right in plain sight,
Yep.
right in plain sight. And I guess that's one of the last things I'll say about all of this is everything I've shown you today has been right in plain sight from the very beginning. The numbers are there, the calculations are there. It just took someone going through the process of doing it and revealing it. But it's been
Yep.
there the entire time.
Well, we probably should stop. I'm just terrified that maybe something will happen to the recording because it's just been just mind exploding, for sure. I really, really appreciate you coming on, sharing all this. Um, so again, maybe say where is a good place to contact you. I know you don't want people sending you a million emails, but
Yeah, I probably won't see the emails if they email me, but they can leave a comment on my YouTube channel, which is the 1111 Matrix Code, and then it'll also say like / ITC photography because I do both. They can reach out to me on Instagram. So my Instagram is 1111 underscore matrix underscore code. Or they can also reach me on my other Instagram, which is ITC photography. And that one's actually, I should have better thought that before I came up with it, but it's I period T period C period underscore photography. And just, send me a DM through that and I'll respond.
yeah, and try not to like bombard you because you got to have time to do all this and I think you should put up a donation thing and I don't want to say write a book because that's just more time, but this has
I
just
mean,
been great.
it would be amazing, if people were willing to donate or whatever. But I don't know. I just have such a difficult time even putting something up like that because I don't want to be looked at as someone who's just out there for the money.
Yeah,
Because that's not what it's about. I mean, I haven't made a dime off of this. I mean, literally.
yeah,
So, and if it was about the money, I don't know. I feel like it kind of takes away from it, but I've put so much
yeah.
work into it without even receiving a single dime because I feel it's important and I feel it needs to be out there. But,
Yeah. I mean,
you
I
know,
haven't made a dime off YouTube, and we don't do it for the money. I hate asking for it, but I've been pushed to, you got to ask, you got to ask, you got to ask. But I think there has to be some kind of flow of give and take. But I mean, if you're in a position where you don't have to worry about that, and this is just, you want to just do it, that's totally different too. I just get the sense of like, I feel like I want to give back to you. So it's like, do you have a donation, please? Because
right.
this is incredible body of work here.
Well, and I totally understand, that. And if it did come, like I said, I work a 9 to 5 job just like everybody else. So, you know, I would love to be able to devote nothing but all of my time to this, you
Yeah.
know. But right now that's just not possible, you know.
Yeah, we have to
Um,
survive. I'm the same way, and I'm not doing it for the money. And people are like, interview some big names. I don't want to do it. I don't think they would come on, but I just don't want to do that. I just want to find where's the people. Let's get this group together. Where are the souls? Where's the people?
right.
And let's all connect, which I think we're doing now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. And I think it is about making these connections and getting the word out there because
okay.
I feel
So,
it needs to be out there. So
oh yeah. I mean, it's the time, obviously, but so I guess we can wrap this up. I just want to say thank you again. Everybody get over to his channel. I think your channel's gonna start blowing up.
it actually has
Um,
in the past few days.
okay, good. Good. You deserve it. And don't go anywhere. I'm just gonna stop the recording here and then I think I'll just take back over host so I can shut it off.
Okay.